Unmute. Hello.
That you came in here to get answered. You just wanted to hear some general stuff because I want to see, since we have a kind of intimate group, if there's some ways that we can also just speak directly to some of the questions that folks have. So think about that. What did you come into this space to get? And what does that look like? Strategies. Okay. Gotcha, Haley. We can talk a little bit about that, even though it's easier said than done, especially in these times. Anybody else? Team building tools. I'm going to overview some, but we can see what that looks like. Because the truth is, when I tell you what really builds teams, you're gonna be like, "Oh shit, Tiffany, I knew that." Just acknowledging. CJ, let's start the deck. If things come up, folks, please just continue to drop them in.
All right. Generally
Ideas
can
and
do one or the
strategies.
other. Not great at both. Oops. All right. Y'all can see that?
All right. So, um, this is what we're going to talk about. Next slide. And y'all will
You
notice
did
this is
that.
going to feel very, 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 very casual. The way that I'm going to frame the discussion is for everybody. We talk about quality staff as one of the quality standards. And the truth is, people only frame that from like an external thing, like they don't have control over it. The truth is, staff isn't quality when you hire them. Staff is quality based on how you build them up, how you support them, how you engage them, and then how you create space for the best versions of themselves to show up in the program. A lot of that really happens though by creating space to really see who they are and what they have to bring into the space. Um, we're going to talk a little bit about how we kind of go through that as a conversation through what does it mean to do team building, how and when we say team building, it's like how did you bring people into the space? One of the things that we keep seeing is that people get hired and then they quit within a month. They quit within a couple of months. And a lot of the times, the main reason why that happens is because they didn't feel equipped to do the job that they were being left alone in a room with 20 pairs of little eyes going, "It's your job to tell me what to do and how to do it." They don't feel equipped to do that. And so, how do we handle that? Um, and then some of the things that are coming up over here, right, is, and then how do we create space where they feel A, safe enough to say, "I don't know what I'm doing and I need some more help"? Have we created the structures where if you can tell that they don't know what they're doing, do they get to go like shadow another team member? Do they get the time to actually have you come in and model for them what the expectation is? Like, how are you creating those systems also? Then stuff like team retention, team dynamics, and then we're going to reflect and I'm going to give you all like an iceberg to build out for yourselves, to just kind of hold realistically, how do you build the kind of culture where people want to stay? Because the truth is, y'all, they don't make enough money. So it can't be money is the motivating factor, right? Money will be what gets you a job. Money doesn't make you stay at the job, right? So it's how are you creating that kind of space and culture? Next slide, CJ. So things that we just hold. We did a bit of a grounding earlier in this slide deck. What I like to do here is we're not going to do a full grounding. We're going to take about 20 seconds And all I want everybody to do is set an intention for what you want to get from today. Just think about it. What is it that you want to get from this conversation? I had you kind of write some things down because I wanted you to start thinking about it, but I want you to hold it as a shared intention for us as a collective because this is what will support things. And y'all gonna get to see all the inner workings as CJ's computer tells all our stories. All right. And I'll share mine just so that we're clear. My intention for the day is to share information in a way that people can receive it and to help it hold in a way that you get what you need. And I'm going to also share my contact information at the end of this, which means that if there's something specific that you want that I haven't shared, you can reach out and I'll see what I can do for you. So, next slide. Things that we say, y'all have probably seen in every can thing. You get to choose how you show up in this room. You can be an explorer. You can go on the journey. You can be a resistor. I don't want to be here. You can be a vacationer. I'm here, but I'm not doing shit. You can be a sophisticate. I could be leading this. All of those things can be true at one time and none. So, what I want you all to think about is as you're in this space, if you know something and it looks like something that this group would benefit from, drop it in the chat. Say you want to come off mute and say it. We the way that we have to acknowledge that everyone in our space has wisdom is a truth. And if you've been doing this work for any amount of time, you've learned some lessons and have something to share. Next slide. I just said that everyone in this space has wisdom, and that's because we believe that. And we believe that you need everyone's wisdom to get the wisest result. We believe that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, and you're entitled to your own perspective, but so is everybody else. What that means on my team is don't be an asshole. Adaptability is necessary. There's no wrong questions because every question makes us think, and everyone will hear others and be heard. And notice the framing. I ask that you listen before you question what someone else has said because they may say something at the end that actually grounds it for you. So listen to folks. And then if you got questions, ask the questions because they're never wrong. So, where are we kind of starting this from? And I'm going to skip through these quickly. So, this is our pedagogical methodology. What that really means is this is what we believe, and this is how it shows up. Critical things for everybody. I guess I'm going to read it. We believe that every child, youth, and the adults that live, love, and work with them deserve just and affirming spaces and opportunities that enrich, empower, enlighten, educate, and elevate them. We know that learning happens in every context, and young people are assets in supporting their own learning and co creating the solutions to the issues and challenges that they face. Expanded learning and out of school time spaces can be cultivated by anchoring in some core beliefs and shared mindsets because you have to believe it to act on it. We're rooted in love and we love and love is shown in our actions and our words. We're asset anchored and driven. We're aspirational in our mindsets, words, and actions. We're connected by our differences because that is what gives us strength and creates our collective. The appreciation of every culture, language, and lived experience is what we leverage to grow and nurture our collective spaces. We make decisions based on elevating the intrinsic gifts, talents, and wisdom of those closest to the problems we work collaboratively to solve, which means if it ain't your problem, you probably don't know the solution. So talk to the people who are having the problem. And we learn by doing and we grow by reflecting on that learning. This governs how we move in our system. This is the way that CAN kind of thinks. Next slide. So, basic things that you all should just be aware of. The work that you do is framed through positive youth development. And positive youth development is just how do we support young people in being the very best version of themselves. Next slide. The way that positive youth development shows up is these core kind of characteristics: competence, confidence, connection, character, caring, and compassion are the five main ones. Contribution starts to play a role the older young people get because they want to understand how do they contribute to the world they live in. Because as you get older, no one likes to feel powerless on what's happening around them. So that's critical to how young people do that. Now, the way it shows up positive and sustained adult youth relationships. Everybody likes to think that young people don't like adults. That's not true. They don't like adults that seem like they don't like them. What they really want and they care about are adults who actually see them and care for them. But our youth development stuff shows up in life skill building activities. Basically, what are the skills that they will carry through them? Learning how to effectively communicate, learning how to critically think, learning how to make decisions and analyze information, learning how to regulate their behavior and their emotions. All of that is why youth development is not dependent on content. It's more about how are we helping them build the humans that they want to be. And then lastly, that youth have specific ways to do, like I said, contribution to contribute and for leadership opportunities. Okay, next slide. I'm trying to get through all the basics, y'all. If you haven't seen them, the quality standards anchor our work. The quality standards came from, and CJ and I were just talking about this. The way that it started, you can leave it there. The way that it
Okay.
started is if we had youth development and real work in youth development started in the 70s and 80s. And then that work led to there's some work called the Learning and After School Principles, which started with some work at Tim Scow and Associates. And the way that it's all framed, it led us to the quality standards. And the quality standards are anchored very simply as there's point of service, which is where we touch young people. There's programmatic, where programs are organized and structured so that point of service can happen. The one we're focusing on today is quality staff. And like I said before, quality staff isn't just about who are you hiring, it's how are you cultivating them as professionals in the space. And note that you will not hear me say things like professionalism. I will say professionalize the field because professionalism is sometimes an antiquated and actually supremacist cultural norm based idea of what professionalism looks like. It's normally framed through a lens that doesn't look like the kids and families that we serve. So how do we hold our adult partners to a standard that was never designed for them or by them? So the way that we're going to talk about today is through the lens of what does quality staff really mean? And so the way that it shows up is quality staff to me have to hold these types of protective factors for young people. They need to build caring relationships, they need to have high expectations, and they need to provide meaningful opportunities for young people to participate and to contribute. Now, if that's what we want for young people, I want everybody on this call to refine that and think about that for staff. We want staff to build caring relationships with each other and with young people. We want our staff to have high expectations. We want them to know that the work that they do, this is what Jeff and Heather were saying, is important. There are some staff on this call, y'all are some of the people. You're going to be walking in Walmart 20 years from now, and some kid is going to come up to you and be like, oh my gosh, Miss Haley, is that you? I remember when you taught me X back then in that program. That's what we mean when we say that sometimes you all are the only person that when you say their name, it rings with care, right? And not chaos. So understanding that having high expectations for your staff, which means that you provide encouragement, you provide support, you provide pathways and opportunities for them to contribute to the program. And then lastly, that there's meaningful opportunities for participation and contribution. We say this all the time. If you only tell staff what to do, and they never get an opportunity to speak through their interests and their talents, if they never get an opportunity to say, I really think we should try doing X in the program, and you actually listen and implement, you will see that they will feel more and more disconnected and therefore not buy in. And when staff doesn't buy in, A, they don't stay, or B, if they do stay, they stay and don't do shit. So, how do we kind of hold all of those things as they evolve? Next slide. So, um, this, and you'll, like I said, you guys are going to get the slide deck, but this really talks about how the protective factors kind of come through as a framework. And it's the same things I just kind of went over in the other one. Next one. And so a pause, because I've been talking for 12 minutes. What is coming up for people? You can come off of your mics and say something, or you can drop it in the chat.
I appreciated hearing I wrote it down as professionalize the field, not professionalism. I think that is something that I have struggled with, just that word, in recent history, sitting through like interviews for
Mm-hmm.
assistant program managers. And so I'm thankful to have that quote, to carry with me into future interviews.
Yay. And I see, let's see, someone said, my takeaway from this will be to create that safe space for my team to communicate and be open and to build my team up to the full potential and expand their minds and abilities in their role without a doubt. Without a doubt, right? The more that and this is something, and for those that don't know, CJ has only been on our team where she's coming up on a year soon. Wait, before I say that, Kira, what you got to say?
Oh, I love that you talked about like again like creating that buy-in for them, that space, because we want them to be there because they want to be there, not be there and then they don't do anything, right? And so I think I'm where I'm like wanting to even take a deeper dive is like that those conversations that do create buy-in because I think we're seeing a lot of apathy within our staff that there's a lack of interest there. And so we're trying to be like, well, what is that? Like what kind of conversations do we need to have that takes away this apathy and that, you're here, yes, but hopefully you're not just here for a paycheck. Like, like what keeps you coming here? But I don't know how much further deep into the ground we got to go for those kinds of conversations. You know what I mean?
It- to be truthful, sometimes it's pretty deep, right? Like the thing that I find really interesting is, and I'm about to make up some percentages. And well, that's not true. I'm going to use my own past experience with my own organization. Um, 20% of my team was there to get it. Like they were all in for the program. They were my long-term staff. They had been with my organization for over 10 years. They were bought in to not only our philosophy, but the impact of the work that we were doing. We had about, I'm going to say, maybe 20, 30%. So another 50, 60% or so were just there to do a really good job because we had created the kind of culture where there was a healthy sense of competition, right? Like we would tell programs like who's getting the best marks from students and families, where how are they showing up, who's really appreciating the work that you're doing, the enrichment activities that you're offering, are the kids loving them, like how is that showing up? And they bought in to that sense of community of working together to be successful at a thing, right? And then we had another 20% that was like, I get a check. That's why I'm showing up. And the truth is, every single person in those groups was important because we needed you to show up. You in ratio. I need you to be here so that my 1 to 20 stays 1 to 20, right? But the other thing though is, even though I knew that that was not going to be my lifer, what I had to do was find a way that was compelling enough for them to understand that while they were there, the contribution they made was equally as important as the lifer, because that's the truth. In their room with their 20 kids, they were the most important adult in the program. And that kind of mindset is the part of the work where everyone has to understand that you are here because you have a gift and a talent to share with young people. And for a lot of my team, because I tried to hire, we had a strategy where we worked in um, under resourced communities, and we made it a point that 20% of our staff had to come within a mile of the school or the community where we were, because we wanted them to see young people like other folks that look like them that they might see walking down the street or going to the store, right? People that we didn't have to explain the context of the community because they were from it. And having that kind of conversation, those were a lot of my, in the beginning, my high turnover staff, and partially because they didn't know what it meant to have a commitment to a workspace. Because for some of them, I was their first job, right? And so that's when I realized that, I'm not just hiring individuals, I'm hiring people that are part of a team. And so that means that I have to help each of my sites develop a culture that is a team, where they start thinking interconnected, where they start thinking interdependent, where they start thinking group goals versus individual accolades. Starting to build that kind of dialogue and conversation meant that so when folks were not calling in, after a while, it would be somebody else on the team that would be like, yo, you coming to work? Like, you ain't here yet, instead of the site coordinator calling, right? Because the team was dependent on each other. And then all of a sudden, after a while, when they were like, oh, someone actually misses me if I'm not there. Doesn't that sound familiar for students? Like when people, instead of saying, I can't believe you weren't here, the first thing you say when you see them is, I missed you so much. We knew that the room wasn't the same because you weren't in the room, right? Being able to help, because adults need that too. And the reality check is a lot of the staff that serve our students are our students in adult form. They've experienced the same kind of harm in our educational system. They have experienced the same kind of needing to be better resourced to be the best versions of themselves. So if you kind of remember some of those things, you build that in to how you're going to actually hold the work with your folks. So I was going to tell a story about CJ just kind of starting, but I'm going to hold it because I'm going to let CJ tell you all a story about kind of their work, and just some of the team building that they've done over time, and especially when they went from running a site to managing 8 sites, 9 sites. How many was it?
9.
Yeah, 9 sites. So to show like what it really meant, and then for her to take, like, I don't want to call them average programs, but some okay programs, and then making them some really amazing programs. So I'm gonna give her a little space to do that. Let's go back to the slides, CJ. And so I'm gonna talk about. We'll start with some of the. Um. All right. I like this quote a lot because there is no such thing as a perfect team member or a perfect employee, but you can have a damn perfect team. You can have a team that works so well together that the flaws of the individuals are supported by the depth and relationship of the team itself. So if you think about it through that lens, that yes, we're going to elevate the strength and talent of each person on the team, but we're also going to acknowledge they can't do it all by themselves. So how do they work together? How do they lean into each other? Like, the way that you know you have a good team is when someone can come on site and say, I have had a really, really bad morning, so I'm going to need a minute. So who can kind of help me? And then someone else says, oh, no worries. I got your group to start. Take a few minutes. And when you come back in, just let me know. And then I'll transition them to you. That's how you know you actually have a team, because people care about the well-being of each other, and that someone also felt vulnerable and safe enough to share, I'm having a bad day. Now, what gets even better is when you know your people enough to, when they walk in the door, you're like, oh, you don't look like you're having the best day. Do you need a minute? All of that starts to work better together. Okay, so next slide. So this is where we're going to start. What are the kind of hallmarks of a good team? Next slide. It is, and it's pretty basic, y'all, that there's clear communication. If people have to guess, that means that they can guess wrong. if people have to make assumptions. They make assumptions based on what they believe that may not be the belief of the person that said something. So the clearer your communication, the better it is for the team. Building trust and respect. I will rarely use the word respect, y'all, as a singular thing, because if you look, we've got 23 people in this space. There could be 23 different definitions of what respect means. So, what I like to say is when I say trust and respect, I want you to translate respect into actionable verbs. Trust and we listen to each other when we speak. Trust and if you are speaking to me, I will allow you to share your entire thought. Trust and when you share with me an experience, I won't question your experience because it's not mine, right? So, helping people understand and define what respect means for each other, that there's shared goals and a vision. If you don't have a vision, people have nothing to get in alignment with. If you don't have clear goals of the work that you are trying to do, people can't hit a moving target, right? It's one thing when the leader knows exactly what we're here to work on, but you don't tell it with anybody else. I just sent a message to to Lupita and CJ because I was at a conference and I was like, "Yo, I want y'all to think about X, Y, and Z." And then I wrote another message like, "Okay, wait, let me be clear. I've been thinking about this and I want us to talk about it, but this is the action that I'm going to need so that we can figure out how to discuss it." I am having to work on the fact that I need to make what is very known to me more visible to my team, because without it, they don't understand where I'm trying to go or what we're trying to build. And I haven't given them the space to buy in and agree. Because the truth is, if they don't agree with the direction, I need to change directions. So it's like, how do I make sure that happens? That there's mutual accountability. And that does not just mean that the person with the most positional power or authority gives people, like, holds people accountable. It means that the team gets to hold the leadership accountable as well. When we haven't shown up the way that we said, when we haven't provided the support. And y'all, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that this is easy, but I am saying that it over time will create the kind of camaraderie and like connective tissue that means that when things get challenging or hard, the team can sustain it. Because the truth is, in this world, life is hard and things happen. I'm thinking about Ray, who's not on this call. It's because the district is trying to make some shifts and he's trying to figure out how to navigate them. And when he had to prioritize being here to share this story or to really figure out how to box up his room and move 30, 40 TKs, there was a priority that had to happen. Um, that there is consistent collaboration and support. The more you, and this is hard in virtual spaces, it's a little bit easier, I believe, in person. But when you create real intentional spaces for people to work together, and work together does not mean I'm sitting next to you and doing my own work, right? It is creating opportunities where we are sitting down and thinking collectively about something, and we are sharing the responsibilities in alignment with our skills and talents, but also to be able to share the load of what it takes to create this new thing, that roles are clearly defined and that all team members know whose role is it to do this, whose role is it to do that. And if you're not sure what that is, create the space for the collective to then define it as a shared space. Well, this is what you're doing, this is what I'm doing, right? Create that space so that everyone then knows how to help each other and how to show up for each other. Adaptability. Um, CJ and I just said it. Adaptability is necessary. It is like saying the the routine of it's a rainy day and we are usually in the multipurpose room, but the school is doing something in the multipurpose room and ain't nobody tell us. our programs have to shift. It happens all the time. The fact that they didn't put out enough snacks, so now I got to find some more snacks from somewhere else to feed these kids. Like, as much as that is true in the implementation of the program, it also has to be true in the way that you design the program. I tell people all the time, um, if you have like one staff that's responsible for checkout, like it's their job to make sure parents sign the paper, write down the code and the time and whatever else it is that you have at your checkout, and you have one person, and then that person is sick, who insures? And I'm gonna tell y'all, this is one of my favorite and worst stories because you know what my staff did? They picked a kid who is not that responsible to sit at the table, and he gave everybody a crayon. Are you kidding me? So they had a whole sign out sheet for a day with like crayon X's because the crayons were broken. Like it was just the most ridiculous thing. And I went to the team and I was like, okay, whose idea was this? And they were like, oh my gosh, Tiffany, it was just so crazy. We didn't have anybody else. And then we realized we didn't give them any pencils or pens or whatever. And I was like, so did that feel like the best decision in that moment? And they were like, yeah, not really. And I was like, right. So what would have made more sense? Even if it was a student, was there a different student that could have been there? Oh, well, yeah, you know. And I was like, we have to be able to think on our feet because our circumstances and situations change because we are in partnership with our school communities. We don't lead our school communities. Okay. So, and then lastly is continuous improvement, and it ain't hard. Y'all say y'all have heard CQI all the time. And basically what that means is if in your team you build a mindset that improvement is going to be what we strive for, what that acknowledges for the team is A, we will make mistakes. B, we will learn from our mistakes. And C, no one is above being corrected about a mistake. If you can build that into how people just think and acknowledge things, then people won't get so defensive when you have to correct them because they know that's what we do here, y'all. We are striving to be better every day than we were yesterday. So, how do we just really create that as our culture? Okay, so if those are the characteristics of a team, how do you build the team? Go forward to CJ. So, if this is what we're trying to accomplish, and then how do we build it? It's some of the same ways that you maintain it. There has to be strong communication. There has to be space for collaboration. There has to be space for coordination of like what we're doing, when we're doing, how we're doing it. There needs to be ample opportunities for cooperation. That's not just in your program, but that's also with your school day. There needs to be a commitment to something that is bigger than the individual. You need to leave space for creativity. Creativity is not born, y'all, in a checklist. It is born out of spaciousness. So the more you can give your folks time to sit down and think and dream about what the program could offer, what it could look like, how they could contribute to that, the stronger you will see that the different ways that they would love to share would show up differently. And lastly, care and consideration. And I use these because this goes to what Anna said in the chat, that positive relationships are important. The more that you can allow space for the individuals on the team to understand, see, and appreciate the humanity of the other individuals on the team, the stronger the team gets. The more you can spend time and build authentic relationships where you're not asking people to be a different version of themselves to be accepted on the team, the more the team evolves. Not saying that it happens overnight, but it does happen with consistency. And then things to hold that if you are having a new team, and keep in mind, every time you bring in a new person, it's a new team. Every time you bring in a new person, it's a new team. And so that means that there's some things that if you only bring in one person and they seem really fully aligned, you can move through these things, but you should always be paying attention to what's happening as the team is growing. There's the forming, and that's just like we're getting here. We're not really clear about who does what. We're trying to figure that out. There's the storming, where, well, I thought that was my job to do. Well, no, it was my job to do. And so there begins to be some type of conflict, or you're noticing that people just work differently and they're having trouble like aligning and saying the same things at the same time. That happens and it is normal. What happens through the storming, though, is you use the storming to get clarity, because this is when you get to say, oh, okay, you all, we have a really great learning opportunity. It looks like we really struggled to put on that family event last night. Let's talk about it. Who thought it was their role to do X? And then you'll see, oh, well, two people thought it was their role to do X. That's why no one did Y. Okay, well, let's talk about that. And how did we? And normally, and this is what I say as the leader, your first question should have been, what could I have done differently to make sure that was clearer? Because as the person with the positional authority, you take the hit for how the team is held, right? And you're also modeling for them, what does it look like to take responsibility when a mistake happens, and that everyone can do that. So once you move through those types of conflict, that moves us into norming. That moves us into like, okay, we now know how to get over bumps in the road. We now know how to like, when someone is showing up in a way that isn't with the norms that we have co-created, we get to come to the team, and we don't need the leader of the team to go to a colleague and say, hey, I'm noticing that you seem kind of off today. Is there something I can do? Notice it's not to blame, it's to see how to support. On our team, we like to say accountability should not be a bad thing, y'all. Accountability is support. And when you can get people to say, to figure that out, because what that translates to is when people ask, know that they can ask for help and they will be met with genuine support, they will be more likely to ask for help. Because sometimes, if you notice, the team members that leave, it's because there was something they weren't able to do and they never asked anybody to help them. So then they started to feel like they were drowning in the thing that they didn't know how to do, and they didn't know how to get support. And so next thing you know, you got somebody that leaves on a Friday and never comes back. And you're like, wait, what happened? Like, where'd you go? And they were like, oh, it didn't feel comfortable to me. I wasn't really good. Then you get that later if they actually talk to you again, because sometimes they just ghost us and then they just be gone. But so after you go through the norming, and then you get to the piece where it's kind of high performing, and you kind of see this with teams where, let's say, everybody's been there for like a couple of years, right? And everybody kind of knows how other people work, and they've figured out some, like, it's the team that comes in informally 15 minutes early just so they can sit around and chit chat and talk and build up some stuff together. And they're like, oh, I had an idea about something, so I just wanted to come in and run it by you, right? All of that is when you start to see, because that's the team where everyone feels appreciated, everyone feels valued, everyone feels seen and feels heard, and feels like they are a meaningful contributor to the work that's happening. Okay, before we go one more. Um, what's coming up for folks, y'all? Again, y'all, let me talk for another 15 minutes. What's coming up? Nothing? I said all these words and ain't nothing happening. Accountability, support. Okay, gotcha. All right, I'll keep going.
Oh, Tiffany, I was trying to find my unmute button.
Okay.
What hit me was when you were talking about in communication, and how when you were asking someone, you know, when you have so many thoughts in your head and you just start to say, this is what I need, this, that, or the other, and you realize you kind of take a step back and you go, wait, I didn't communicate that clearly. That's like metacognition. What you're trying to do is display your thoughts in a way that, or communicate them in a way that other people understand what you're thinking. And that's something that a lot of people don't know how to do, or they don't do it very well. But it all falls under how we communicate to each other. And I think when you're as a director, that's critical. That you're able to, if you have something that you want to communicate that you see that's not being done, or that is being done great, how we express that clearly so they understand what's going through our mind and our thoughts, so that they um, get the right message from us.
Definitely, right? And I use an example that I do tell people at the start of a program. So in the first 30 days of any out of school time program, I say that every family should get a small note about something that their child did exceptionally in the program in the first 30 days. Why are we doing that? Because you want the family to know that you see the beauty that is their child, right? And by starting your communication with them there, that also means that if you see something where you need their support, they are more likely to accept that as a truth because they know you also saw the good. So the same thing goes for staff. If you cannot acknowledge them in all the good things that they're doing, like I had a teacher that used to love to do things like, oh, we've got like when she's got grading a paper, and her idea of correction was the number of things you got wrong is what she would circle in red on the top of the paper. And one day I just had a moment and I was like, I got like 40 things right, and you circled the like four that I got wrong. I got a problem with that. I was like, I need you to acknowledge that all the good I did, and then this part, because the truth, and so now y'all are going to get a real Tiffany kind of thing about how I feel about teaching, because I was a classroom teacher, that what I believe in our spaces with adults, especially adult staff as adult learners, is we have to anchor people in where they are like innately drawn and talented and gifted. Because if you can't acknowledge that, it's so hard to map the gaps to where they have space to grow, right? You have to be able to help them see, do you know how well you do this? Have you seen how you show up with students in this way? It's really incredible. And let me be explicit about what that is in terms of skills. And then I can say, and I'm also noticing there's a place right here that I think if we put in some work, you could be equally as great, right? I'm anchoring them in where you are strong, and I'm trying to say to them, how do I get you to leverage that strength to help you build even more skills and more capacity in doing your work? Go through this to the next one for me, CJ. And so when we talk about team dynamics, so all those things I said about if this is what we expect from a really good, strong team, and here's ways that we actually build it, the way that you navigate it, look at what it says. It's still through communication. It's still through collaboration. It's still through cooperation. It's still through commitment. That's why I said on the other slide, remember this, because these things are the consistent practices that help you go from hiring a team and starting to growing and sustaining a team. Go through the next one. And remember, y'all are going to get these slides. Next. And so go forward again. Yep. That all of these things, y'all, are still the same. Go to down to retention and what are some signs of trouble. So here's the part that I want you to pay attention to. These are missteps that leaders make unintentionally. Avoiding conflict at all costs and punishing team members for critical thinking only leads to bad decisions and a lack of fresh ideas. So when someone differs with the way that the program is going, it's not bad that they have a difference of opinion as long as they can talk through what they want to do differently, right? Like, oh, and because they can't just say, and this is what I tell people, you can't just come to me and say, oh my gosh, that was ridiculous. I'm like, well, what was ridiculous about it? What didn't work? Was there something that wasn't implemented well? Was there something that we forgot, right? Actively engage them in understanding the critical kind of cognition that's necessary for us to make shifts in things. Um, the death of a team is the leader. My team knows right now I'm struggling to support them the way that I want because I am way too stretched doing things externally in the field. So I gave myself a few months to kind of wrap up all those projects so I could spend the latter part of this fiscal year focusing internally on my team. That's what I'm thinking. Lack of trust, frequent conflicts. If there is always conflict and never any resolution, that is a sure way to get people to leave because nobody likes to stay in chaos intentionally. Unequal participation, micromanagement, and blocking. Allowing staff to treat each other badly and not addressing it is a team killer. Watching someone who shows up and not the best ways, team killer. Rewarding someone for not doing their job by giving them less work and giving the people that do more work, team killer. Okay, I'm gonna go through this, keep going. So I'm when you get the slide deck, y'all, I put an activity in for you, standards again, CQI and overview. We just make sure that you understand that because I wanted you to make an actual plan on how you do this. I want you to ask yourselves these questions. You're going to build yourself a plan. You're going to go through it, and then you're going to make yourself an aspirational iceberg around what's the culture that you want for your team. Go down one more, CJ. I put an example of some things. No, go back up. Of some things that people put in. She's going
I can
forward.
go back.
It's okay. She can't go back. So it's all right. So you'll get it, and it has an example of what some people have thought about in terms of building their cultural iceberg. And the way this structure works is that what are the things that we need to think and believe? That's the mental models. What are the structures we need to create? Team meetings, agenda forms, idea mapping. What are the patterns and trends that we see those artifacts and mental models at play? How do we design our team meetings so everybody has voice? How do we do planning sessions where people get to contribute? And then lastly, what's the vision or what do I want to see to know that this is happening? I want to see my staff happy to see each other when they walk in the door. I want to see my staff excited to get ready to address this day. I want to see my staff show up on time every day because then I know they actually want to be there, right? All of those things. So 4:45, y'all, I hit the wall. So we're gonna share this with you. It even has a draft of a this is a how we make an improvement plan for something, so it's something you can walk away with. And then yeah. So my CJ, can you drop my me and your our email address in the chat? And so
Yes.
then y'all can reach out to us and just leaving you with something that we believe deeply in the organization. That diversity is a fact, equity is a choice, inclusion is an action, and belonging is the outcome. And healing is at the center of it all. Thanks y'all for engaging with us. Um, I'm excited that you stayed. And so, yeah, and CJ just put mine in there. So please, if there's something specific that you have a question with, it's easy. Reach out. And what I would tell you to do is email me and CCCJ to make sure that you actually get a timely response because my schedule is ridiculous. So yeah, thanks y'all.
Thank you all. If you are still with us, be sure and join us tonight for virtual Pictionary. And also, if you are interested in seeing one of the amazing high schools that I used to oversee, come join us
Please.
for site visits. One of our amazing site coordinators is showcasing her site, El Monte High School. So come on over to our site visits.
Y'all, and the site visits are great. So, and remember, there's different options. So please go join. And when in doubt, go back to your CVent. Go to the hub. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
So CG, I think we're gonna end. I think I have to PDF the deck and we'll load it into the portal because I wasn't in the portal because all the things have changed. All right.